Okay, what we're going to do today is go over Chapter 19, which deals with some backups, just the first section. And really we're using it for two purposes. One is for backups, the other reason is for scripting. Later on, if you have your server guide up, further down under other useful applications, there's some more scripting things in there. Very, very basic. It just gets you into some editing things, gets you working with a couple other functions and features that I want to get into and teach you. Next week, the idea is to maybe introduce you to some of the new features in the newer versions of the Ubuntu desktop and server. We've gone to version 12.10 for both the desktop and the server. A couple new features, take a look at that. The rest of the day next week will be working for your Dropboxes, and then your final week will be just that, just finishing up those skills, reviewing anything we need to do, and let you get on with that. And with that then, let's work with Chapter 19 backups. There's many ways to back up an Ubuntu installation. The most important thing with backups is to develop a backup plan, and that does talk about in this chapter. I didn't have you specifically read this chapter, but I would like you to do that this week, reading through Chapter 19, especially where it talks about the backup plan. And very creative ways of working with that, and the cron function within Ubuntu, within Linux, of being able to schedule things. It's like in Windows, being able to schedule events or schedule applications for running. The following sections discuss various ways of accomplishing these tasks. The very first way is, in fact, using scripts, and that is in Section 1 of the Chapter 19. One of the simplest ways to back up a system is using a shell script. For example, a script can be used to configure which directories to back up, pass those directories as arguments to the tar utility, which then creates an archive file. Anybody familiar with WinZip? It's basically doing command line WinZip. These are the directories or directory that I want to back up, and it's going to put it in a compressed file. Probably not the greatest and best way of doing backups. Very simple, very easy to use. Does have a lot of limitations, but it does get us into scripting and give us the ability to back up. Going through all this, we should be able to then create files, delete them, and then do a restore. Do a restore of those files that we did back up in that tar file. The archive files then can be moved or copied to other locations. They can also be created directly on an NFS mount, which, as we remember in the past, is a remote server, and being able to just copy it there directly. So it is off-site or off-server at least immediately. I'm backing up to that location. We're not going to do that. We're going to keep everything locally. We're going to create it, again, some file manipulation, and then restore the files. The simple shell scripts. The following shell script uses tar to create an archive file on a remote NFS system. We're going to modify that slightly as far as where we're going to be putting that stuff. So what we're going to be doing is, in fact, creating that backup shell file. It sort of walks it through here, and it tells us what our variables are supposed to be and why we have them. So let's go ahead and start that. The first thing we want to do is actually create the shell file. So we'll go ahead and log in. I'm going to create a file called backup.sh. So I'm going to use sudo vim, and I'm going to keep it right in my home directory. I can put this different places, and if you read through the documentation, it kind of tells you to do that, but you can run it from anywhere. And it is a new file, nothing's in there. If you have your Ubuntu server guide PDF file up there, go ahead and sort of follow along. We are making some modifications along with that though. So I hit A for appending, and I'm going to start the very first line. Anything with a pound sign in the front of it is a comment line, so those don't really run. They don't do anything. But it's good at practice to use comment lines or remark lines to document what you're doing in any kind of script. It makes perfect sense while you're doing it, and then suddenly you go back and say, what's this for, or why did I do that, or what's the variable? And we give ourselves, I give myself way too much credit for that. I'll think, oh yeah, I'll remember that, or when I look at the script, it'll make sense. Better document it and get in the habit of doing that. I'm not going to get into all the details of what scripting is or how we write scripts. I'm just going to let you create a couple of these scripts and go through it, and I'll walk you through it of what's happening, but we're not going to learn it in depth by any means. It's sort of just a very light introduction. So I'm going to back up, but I'm not going to back up to an NFS mount. I'm going to back up to a backup directory. So I'm even going to note that in my shell script itself. The first section of this script I'm working with is what to back up. And if you notice, it says backup files equals, and then there's a whole bunch of directories under there. Backup underscore files is a variable. Later on, we'll be using that variable called backup files to be put as an argument into the tar command line. So backup files equals, and we can put a whole bunch of different things that there we want. I don't want the list very long or very big, just because when we look at it later on, it's just going to scroll on forever, and we're going to see tons of files and directories. I just want to keep this nice and simple for right now. So the only thing I'm going to be backing up is the user Paul B directory. I'm sorry, home. It's not user. I have to switch operating systems. Home Paul B. And that is the directory I'm in right now. When you log in, you are defaulted to your home directory. It doesn't look like it's in a directory, it's just your default location. So home Paul B. And that's the only directory that I'm going to include. It is not, that's just my cursor. It should be, it's hard, here let's get rid of the, everything's going to be purple. I can't change the colors. Can you see that at all? That it's kind of on the projector. On the projector, it has just /home, which would be all the users' directories, which is fine. You could do that as well. But again, very specifically, just putting Paul B. But we could just use /home. We're not going to do the mail directory, the etc, the root, or the boot, or options directories. We're just going to be using the home directory of your own user. Again, keeping that list really, really short when we're looking at files or restoring and seeing the contents of those files. Okay, moving on down is going to be where to back up. Where to back up to. And again, this is going to be a variable later on, so it's nice and easy so that you can go up and just change what to back up or where to back up to without changing any of the parameters later on. So where's the destination? And we're going to put it into a folder right at the root of our drive called backup. So in the documentation it has a mount backup. That's an NFS mount. So that backup directory would have to be mounted from another location in a different means. I don't want to do that. I don't want another system up or mounting it. I just want to be creating a directory called backup at the root of my own server that I'm going to put this file in. So again, the destination will equal /backup. And all these can be easily changed. Once you get this typed in, it's like, oh yeah, where do I want that backup to be? Let me change that location, and from that point on, just by changing this one variable here, from then on, it's going to always be put in the new location. Okay, the next part, create archive file name. What are you going to call this thing? Well, it's pretty creative. What it's doing is it's taking the day, which is the date, and basically making the file names part of the date name. And the host name will also be your computer's name, so it's going to append the two together. And basically, your archive file name becomes the date. I'm sorry, the host name with the date. So it's going to look something like Paul B Ubuntu 11/26/2012 or something like that. That's going to be a lot to type later on, and we have to type this all the time. So I'm just going to change it to the archive file is going to equal my backup. Oh, and I put the file extension of TGZ. And again, that would be the equivalent of a zip. Now, if you want to do it the other way and see what it does as far as variables with date and host name and all that kind of stuff, that's great. Go ahead and do that. Again, you're going to have to be typing that in all the time, and that's a whole lot to type. My backup is shorter, more concise, and very consistent. And if you want to do both, you certainly could. You can make archive file name and then do it the long way with the date and the host name, and just comment out which ones you want to use and which ones you didn't want to use. So in this case, I could keep this in here and just not use it by putting a comment in front of it. I'm going to keep it though. Moving on down, it's going to, let's see, create the file name, print the start status message. Print the start status message. And all this does is basically showing out on the screen. Echo means to echo on the screen, put on the screen this message so you know what's happening. Backing up, and now I'm starting to use variables. So backing up, I'm using the variables. I'm using a dollar sign in front of it, backup files, and so it'll list those. So it's going to say backing up. I put backup. Backing up, and it's going to say /home/Paul B. So I'm backing up those files to, and it's going to tell me then the destination, which is going to be /backup, and then the archive file name. And again, what's really nice about that is if you change any of these things, which are really easy to change because it says what do you want to back up, where do you want to back up to, and what do you want to call it, everything from here on will just pull those things that you put in there. And then put an end quotation mark. Date is going to tell you the date and time. It's going to say November 26th of 2012 at 9:30 a.m. And then an echo, just by itself, is a blank line. Okay. Let's scroll down here a little bit on our, ooh, too far. Wow, I went really far. Okay, the next thing we want to do is, in fact, back up the files. Back up the files using tar. So the command is tar, and tar is one of those things that you'd really have to look up the help screen and see what all the variables are for. I don't know of a really good way of memorizing what all the switches are for because they just don't match what they refer to. So I'm just going with what it says there. If you want to look them up, it's great, but it's CZF. And it has a very specific parameter, so it says, what do you want to back up? I'm sorry, where do you want to put this? And then what am I putting into that files? So I could just as easily put here /backup/my backup and then put home/Paul B. I could type that all out. That doesn't give me any variable options though up on top. If I change this or added more lines to the backup, or if I want to change the location or whatever, it's a lot of things I have to change and remember the backups. So I'm going to use all the variables and use all the variables from above. So the first variable is going to be the destination / the archive file. And what am I backing up? I'm backing up everything that's in the backups files list. So with one command, it's going to do all that. And again, if I had 20 different directories listed, that all encompasses in that one variable backup files, and it'll do all 20 of those directories. The last thing I want to do is print the message that I'm done. Print the N status message. And I'm doing a blank line with echo. And then I'm telling you that I'm finished by actually echoing backup finished. And I'm also including the date and time again. So you can see this is the date and time that this was done. After it's finished, it's just going to check the file size of this, so it's going to list the contents of that. I'm not even going to do that one. It's not going to be that important. Telling you the file size doesn't really tell you a whole lot. We're going to take a look at the contents of a different way later on. So, again, just reviewing the file very quickly. The most important parts are your backup files equal, and then your home directory. The destination equals a new backup directory, which doesn't exist yet. We do have to create that. And then there's an archive file. What are you going to call this thing? Make note of that. You can name it anything you want. You can put Paul's backup. You can put my backup. You can put backup stuff. You just have to know what it is when you go looking for it. There's the start status message, not critical by any means. It's just telling you what's going on. But then you have the tar command itself. The destination / archive file. What am I putting into that file? I am going to put the backup files list. When we're done, hit escape, :WQ to save it and write it. So if I do an ls for listing the files here, I can see that I have that shell script there. It's called backup.sh. I want to take a look at that backup directory. If I do cd backup, it's going to say it doesn't exist. How do I make a directory? How do I make that backup directory? mkdir? Yep. mkdir. Oh, and it's in the root, so I don't have permission as a regular user, so make sure you're using sudo. Now if I go to the root and I do an ls, I'll see a backup directory. I can change directories to the backup directory. Go back to the root, go to home, and Paul B. I'm back in my home directory. Okay, let's go through. Continuing with the user guide, it says the script can be executed using some methods in section 1.2. Executing the script. Talks about earlier on. I'm on the wrong section anyway. There we go. The wrong section. Okay, executing from the terminal. The simplest way is just to run it using the bash command. Again, sudo allows you to run as administrator or as root. Sudo bash backup.sh. So let's go ahead and try that. Doing it very simply that way. Sudo bash is the command to actually run it, and it's called backup.sh. And it tells me, looking at this, I'm sorry? Okay. Make sure that you're in your home directory, and make sure that you have a backup.sh file in that directory. I'll just show this to you real quick. This is exactly what it ran. It says backing up, and it gives you the list of files, which in this case is only one directory, but home Paul B, to backup/mybackup.tgz. It started at 9:30 and 37 seconds. It ran it, and it says the backup is finished, and because there's only a couple of files in there, it only took a second to do that. Obviously, more files would take a lot more time to do that. Who's having problems running that file? Okay. What's the error you're getting? Okay, if you do an ls, make sure that it says backup sh in the list. If you're in a different directory, to easily go back to your home directory, do cd space enter. That takes you to your home directory. That's completely different than cd /. That's the root. If I just do a space, it takes me to a home directory. Yes. Yes. Okay. But you have a backup sh, correct? Sudo bash backup.sh. Okay. You're good? Yeah, it's easy to get, I switched you around in different directories, so it's easy to get confused. Which directory am I in right now? And again, the easiest way to do that is to cd space enter. That always takes you to your home directory. You know you're in your home because it has the little tilde. The tilde is your home directory, which is different than the root. The root will just have a /. And then any other directory will have the directory name, such as, now I'm in the Etsy directory. This will be on a Dropbox item. The Dropbox can consist of creating a backup shell script and then running it automatically using the cron, which we're going to get to next. Okay, if we follow the script that's in the user's guide, what to back up, you can do this. That's perfectly fine the way that's up there. I'm just shortening that for you. You don't have to do the Etsy root, boot, or whatever. That'd be a great example to do it. But again, the list has been really long, and when we try looking at files, it just gets overwhelming. So I'm going to make it nice and simple. We're only backing up one directory. So the exact same syntax, same format, we're just sort of limiting it to there. So just the home and then your home directory. And you could include the whole home. I don't know why you did individual, because there's only one individual under it. The destination, again, pretty much the same. What the mount does is we're mounting an NFS mount point, and we're going to skip that. So we just want to go to a directory. It just happens to be called backup. You could put it archive. You could create an archive directory. You could call it a Tom directory, whatever, a Kim directory. So whatever you put there is where it's going to get backed up to. Now, again, that's a directory that you're going to have to create. And I guess I'm not following as closely as I thought I was with the script. The file name, I'm just simplifying. This is really complex and really cool if you are doing this on a daily basis, because otherwise all your files get overwritten every day and then you don't have a backup. The whole idea of a backup routine is that I have week-long, daily, weekly, and monthly incremental things, and that's the whole idea. So you definitely want different file names. You couldn't do it any other way except by doing something like that, by having that date option in there, that date argument in there saying, oh, this is the date, this is the date, this is the date. And again, just for simplicity, instead of looking at this huge list of files, I make the list shorter. Instead of typing out, you know, November 26, 2012, Paul B. Ubuntu.tgz, it's just me, my backup.tgz. And then everybody has the same file name and everything. So I'm just trying to simplify, and I think I'm making more of a confusion. This really doesn't matter as far as printing the status message. It's just telling you I'm going to back up. This is the start time. And same thing down here. I'm done, and this is the ending time. This is really important, this archive file line, this tar CZZ file line, though. Yes? Under here, that's a blank line. No, you don't. It's just spacing. When I run this, let me run this on my screen. Somewhere. Right. So on my screen, it puts this blank line right in here. So if I didn't have that echo, sure, it's going to be perfectly fine. It's just squished together. I wouldn't need an echo after this one either. And so it'd say Monday, it's running the tar file, and then backup is finished. But people kind of like to have things separated. And again, that's where it's really nice, is once you have the file, let me change this, in fact, even make it a little bit clearer. You can put anything in there that you want. And now it just puts lines there instead of having spaces. You could put asterisks. You could put 5 blank lines in there. It's just a blank line. Just clarifying what's happening. When things run together, it's hard to follow. It said it started, now it's finished, and where does it start, where does it end, or whatever. Okay, moving along. Continuing on in the user's guide. Executing it from the terminal is by far the easiest. This is a great way to test the script to make sure everything's working great and as expected. That'd be really important to make sure it's working. We actually haven't seen that it worked yet. They get into that later on. I'm going to show that up front, though. If I want to see the contents of this file, first I want to see if this file is even created. So let me change directories to my backup directory and see if anything's even in there. And sure enough, there's my backup file. Now, how do you see the contents of that? Well, we need to use the tar command again. And again, with all of its switches. And this time it's going to be tzvf, and then the file that you want to look at. So mybackup.tgz. And this is in the book. Page 297, 1.3, restoring from an archive, it says, to see a listing of the contents, it's right here. Except this is just located in a different directory and called something different. So you have to understand parameters. Okay, if I hit enter, it's going to show there's my stuff. And that's the stuff that's in that archive file. Now, let's kind of continue with that with storing from an archive. Let's go back to our home directory. So this is good navigation of directory structures. How do I get back to my home? CD space is going to do that. It brings me right back to my home. I wonder if even just CD does. CD, but without the space, does it too. So I want to get back to my home directory. I want to create a file. How do I create a file? Touch. Touch important dot text. So I created a file. And it's called important. I can even put stuff in it. Let's go ahead and put information in it. I'll do a sudo vim important.text. This is really important data. Hit escape, :WQ, and it wrote that. I can see that it wrote it by doing more important.text, and it tells me that this is really important data. Everybody have that? Okay, now that I have that text file, I want to back it up. So I'm going to run my, I should just type it in, sudo bash backup.sh, sudo bash backup.sh. And it backed it up. How do I know it backed it up? Well, right from this directory, now this is where knowing where command prompts work and how options work and all that kind of stuff, I can run tar right from here. And again, using the same options, so the TZVF options. I want to see the files that are in the backup directory in mybackup.tgz. So again, it's just pointing to the location. So the backup directory, mybackup.tgz. The other option is to go to the backup directory, and then you won't have to put the entire path. Once you do that, take a look, double check. Sure enough, there's my important text file. Good. Phew, it's backed up. So I do an ls, there's my important text file. I want to copy it, but I use the rm command instead. I want to rename and move it to a different directory. That's what rm stands for, right? So I'm going to do rm, my important text file, and it must have been successful because it just did it, right? And do an ls, and it's gone. Oh. Test? I have a test directory. Anything in blue are directories. I should remove that. Remove directory test. There. Sorry. I had a test directory, so that was my fault. You're removing, you're deleting using the rm command, important.text. I accidentally did this. Okay, to restore a file, to get that file back, I want to use the tar command, of course, obviously. I'm just using different parameters, and this is where we get into the next line, the last line on page 297. Now I'm going to walk you through this. Again, it's a little bit different, slightly different. So I'm using the -xzvf, so I do need to have that. I'm sorry, xzvf. And the order matters. It's not just the right letters, but they have to be in the right order. And again, that's another thing that I don't want to get into. I just can't get into all of it. I'm going to restore a file. In fact, right there it says to restore a file from the archive. So where am I going to put this? So I'm sorry, what file am I pulling this from? Well, it's going to be in the backup directory in a file called mybackup.tgz. So that's the first thing is I'm pulling the file from this archive file. Now we do need the -C because we want to create a directory if the directory structure didn't exist, and we actually want to just do a specific file, not the whole archive file. We just want to be creating just a specific file. Now, what file in that whole thing do we want to create? And that's going to be, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, let me back up. The next thing here, if you look on the server guide, is I'm going to be creating, where am I creating this from? Now, they want to put it in a different directory called temp. So they don't want to overwrite their existing stuff. They want to put it in the temp directory. And then what do they want to back up? Restore the etc host files. So they're going to take this whole directory and put it in the temp directory. I want to put it back in the same location. So I'm just going to be putting just the slash, or just the root. So -C, and then from the root, then I put in the path to and the file that I want to be including. Now, if you notice, what you're restoring does not include the original slash at the beginning in front of home. You ignore that. Little confusing. Sorry. tar is the command, xzvf is going to expand the archive file, and it's going to use different formats, and this is going to allow you to support the different formats. And if you look up tar, it's going to walk you through what those all are. What file am I pulling from? My backup. Where's my backup located? In the backup directory. I need to be creating the directory in the directory structure, so you have to use the -C, uppercase and lowercase is very important. Where am I going to be putting this? Because it recreates the entire directory structure, and I want to put the same place, so I put this in the root. What am I going to restore? This, home Paul B. If I just put home Paul B, it would do the entire directory. If I only want a specific file, I include the file name, so important.txt. Now, if I did that all correct, if I hit enter, it shows that my file's back. If I do more, I'll see that I have all my stuff back. This is a really important data document. Everybody get it back? You never even removed it. I saved all those steps. I never got rid of it. That's not the point. It's not working? Okay. Whoever deleted the file and restored it gets to take a break. Everybody else, let me know, and I'll walk you through how to delete it and restore it. Isn't it always exciting when it works? So, good. We'll remember it. That's what you have notes for, and you can remember it, and you only have to do it one more time. You can forget it for the rest of your life. No, you'll run into this probably somewhere. Okay, continuing on with the scripting stuff. It talked about the easiest way in section 1.2, executing the script. The simplest way is just to run it, sudo bash backup. The cron utility, however, can be used to automate the script execution. How many of you remember to back up on a daily basis, or going to go around to all your servers and type in this to back it up, and you want it to automatically happen? And this is just one small example of how cron can be doing that. Think of cron as like time, like chronological, you know, a chronograph, or just think of time. It's a scheduler. How it works is there's a bunch of files, and that we'll be looking at some of those today. It's configured through entries in the cron tab file. Cron tab files are separated into fields, and it talks about the minute that it's going to be executed, the hours to be executed, the day of the month, so DOM is going to execute on, MON, which is the month command, so it's going to be 1 through 12, which month of the year it's going to be. DOW is day of the week, like if you wanted just to run on Sundays or just on Saturdays or Monday through Friday or whatever it's going to be. And then the command is going to be executing. So we'll be taking a look at that and actually creating a cron tab file. To add or change entries, you use the -E, cron tab -E command. Also, they can be viewed what is currently listed in the cron tab by doing the -L for listing. So E for edit and L for listing. So let's take a look at what ours is. Let me scroll down a little bit further. So the first thing I'm going to do is sudo cron tab -E. Cron tab space -E. Now, this is going to tell you, it's going to give you an option for an editor. And the first time you select the editor, it's going to keep that editor for cron every time. It does say Nano is the easiest, and there's pros and cons to it. Definitely a nice editor. You don't have to remember all the, :WQ type stuff. But we've been using Vim this whole time. So let's just keep using Vim. It keeps things consistent for you. So I'm going to use number 4 for Vim Basic. And that brings us into the editor that we've been using. I hit the number 4. Correct. Okay. So this is our file. Edit this file to introduce tasks to be run by cron. Each task to be run as defined through a single line. To define the time, you can provide concrete values such as minutes, hours, and days a month. Notice that you will notice that tasks will be started based on the cron system daemon's notion of time and time zone. So the server is whatever time the server thinks it is, that's supposed to be running, not on some other your client's time or anything else like that. So be careful of that, especially if you have your server someplace else. Output for the cron tab jobs is sent through email. Nothing shows up on the screen. So if you look on your server, nothing appears. It runs it, does it, and you're just done. Let's see. For example, you can run a backup of all your accounts at 5 a.m. every week. And here's a very specific example of the tar command. So these are backwards, in my opinion. It has the minutes first. So minutes are first. So at the 0 minute of the 5th hour, and this is a 24-hour time. So if you wanted it at 10 p.m. at night, it'd be 0:22. And then the next field is DOM, which is day of the month. Well, an asterisk means them all. So day of the month is every day. And then month of the year, every month. And then day of the week. Day of the week is going to start on, I forgot, Sunday, Monday. Sunday is 1, and then Saturdays through 6. So, no, it's not right. What am I doing here? Let's see. For example, your account's at 5 a.m. every week. Every week with, what's the 1 before? That's the day of the week. This says every week. This should be Monday. I'll have to look it up. Let me check real quick. Hang on. Okay, what does the book say? Both are valid, 0 through 7, but 1 would be Monday. So really they're doing this on Monday then. And so it's not exactly clear. And that's using the tar command. tar-ccz. Where am I going to put it? I'm putting it in this home TGZ file, and what am I backing up? The home directory. So you could type this all out, but again, it doesn't give you as much variables, and it's nice using shell scripts with variables. You can add and replace things a lot easier than what's the command for this or what's the format for this. And then that gives you, this is it. There's nothing in it. It's empty right now. If I hit A for append, I go down to the end, and I want to enter my own. Let's see, it is 10:17. So let's go with 10:20. So at 20 minutes, oh, I thought I did. Numlock's not on. Let me do it again. Here we go. At 20 minutes of the 10th hour, and every day of the month, and every month, and every day of the week, I want to run the command all these pretty colors, bash, and I want to run, what it's executing then is the shell script located in my home directory. So again, at 20 minutes after 10 on every day of the month and month of the year and day of the week, I want to run the bash command, and then it has the parameter of what bash is going to be running. Does that make sense? That's all I need to do. Hit escape, :WQ to save that. Now I do need to do a couple more things. Oh no, this is all I need to do for this one. Yeah. So let's take a look at the time. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Date. Date is the command. So I'm at 10:19 and 47 right now. At 52, 53, 54. And so what I've run. And there's my backup file. ls-l. Okay, I'm shooting for L. There we go. At 10:20. There you go. Thanks. And then you can set this up to run it on a daily basis. In fact, it will. Right now, it's set to run every day at 10:20. It's going to do a new backup on there and a new backup on there. Just for fun, let's go ahead and change our backup shell script file. And I hit A for append. And this is completely optional. You don't have to do this, but why not? I did sudo vim backup.sh because I'm in my home directory. If I wasn't in my home directory, I'd have to change that. I'm going to go underneath here where it says the file name, and we're going to do some of this stuff. I was just showing that you could put dashes in there, you could put asterisks in there, you could have blank lines in there. That's what I have those in there for. So you can put anything in there. Someone had asked, well, why do I have an extra echo in there? What does that do? I said this is a blank line. So it could be a blank line, or you could write something else in there. Let's see here. I want to change this file name. I want to see what we can come up with. And this is just playing with some of the variables on here. And let's see here. Oh, I'm waiting. I'm waiting. What are you waiting for? Missed some notes? We okay? Caught up? Okay. So for this archive file name right now, this is called my backup. Let's put a pound in front of there so it won't run it as my backup. I want to play with some of the other variables that it does work with for creating a file name. Underneath the create archive file name section. Right. This is just extra. Yeah, you don't have to take notes on this. This is sort of going along with what they're talking about there. If you input like the day on there, the host name, archive, and then the archive file name would be a combination of those different things. So the last line I'll put in here is the archive file equals, and then some of the variables I'm working with, such as the, I don't want to put the, we'll do it the same way they did. We'll do it exactly way they did it. So day equals, now we know the script works, now it's just a matter of changing some of the variables. Yep. $ space date plus %A. And if you don't follow along with this, this is perfectly fine. That's okay. This is a lot further than we need to go. For some people want extra things. And the archive file name would then be that's a lowercase s. And this is right out of the user's guide, the server guide. Day equals $ date plus %A. Hostname equals hostname -s archive. So let's just try it, see if it works. :WQ. Okay. And by the way, you could put all kinds of variables. Here's a good, this is, again, just a quick reference on shell script names. There's all kinds of references. What variables can you use? We're using a date %, capital A. That's the full weekday name. So that's why we put Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I could put a lowercase a on there, and this shows sun, mon, to, whatever. I could put the month for January. I could put the date and time and year and everything on there with a C. Date, day of the month, the full date, the last 2 digits of the year. So we have all kinds of variables. If you're looking at this, they do make a difference between uppercase and lowercase. So percent lowercase h or percent uppercase h are 2 different variables. Yes, yes, it is. So let's see if this works. How am I going to get this to work? cron tab -E. E. Cron tab -E. And it brings you into the Vim editor automatically. And if I hit A for append, I can scroll down to the bottom, and I can see that my time is 10:28 right now. So, can I do it 29? I don't know if I'll make it fast enough. Did that automatically change, or did you change that? Because I must not have saved that. Oh, I might not have made it. I didn't create the new file. Sudo space cron tab -E. Escape :Q. And make sure that you're in your home directory. Always make sure you're working from your home directory with the tilde. It's just going to make a new backup file instead of being called mybackup.tgz. It should say Monday, and then whatever your host name is. Ubuntu Paul B is what it should look like. Yeah, don't worry about it too much. It was just following the script in the user's guide, the server guide. If you don't get that part, that's fine. I believe you're all able to create a file, back it up, delete it, and restore it. This is just extra variables working within shell scripts. And mine didn't create it. I'm missing something. I don't know. Well, I can just try to run it. Sudo bash. Oh, I have a syntax error. Expected token. I wonder if I should have those spaces in there. I can't remember now. Yeah, that's why it's not running. I don't think that's right, though, but I'll try it. Okay. Yeah, you're not supposed to have the space after the dollar sign. My mistake on the typing it. Now it created my file called Ubuntu Paul B Monday. So my mistake. Under right here, under the archive file name, there shouldn't be a space after the dollar sign. I just ran it. Yep, I just ran it. I ran it without using cron. Just go ahead and just run it straight by doing sudo bash and then doing backup.sh. That way, like they said, that's why you should test it that way to see if there's any syntax errors, because cron doesn't tell you anything, unfortunately. All it does is email you, which we don't have set up, email you errors or successes of cron jobs. Now if I do a directory, like I said, in the file name, if you want to run it more regularly, if you want to run it every half hour. So if I want to run it on the top of every hour, in your cron tab job, your hour field would be an asterisk. And you'd have a 0 in the first field, so that means every hour. And then you could change the time, the field, the file name to include the time as well. So Monday at 10 o'clock, Monday at 11 o'clock, Monday at 12 o'clock, Monday at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. So you could certainly do that. Looking at the server guide, I just want to show this to you. I do want you to read this. Archive rotation. The shell scripts only allow for 7 different archives for a server whose data doesn't change often. This may be enough. If the server has large amounts, a more complex rotation scheme should be used. In this section, the shell script will be slightly modified, implementing a grandfather, father, son rotation, which is like a monthly, weekly, daily idea. The rotation would do a daily backup, Sunday through Friday, then a weekly backup, giving you 4 weekly backups a month, and then finally you have a monthly backup. That's a very common rotation scheme, by the way. And so here's the new script, and you end up with if, and then else if. That's what EL stands for. So if you're into like scripting or programming at all, you kind of get that idea. I didn't want to get really far into this because it would just be copying it and typing it all in, but try to read through it, understand it. So this would in fact be telling it what it's going to be backing up. Cron would just run on a daily basis then. So cron runs this script every day. So you don't have to go through cron and say, oh, run this bash shell command on Mondays and this different one on Fridays and a different one on Sundays. There's only one shell script that runs every day. The script itself says what to run based on which day. Yes? Correct. Yes. Yes. No. It doesn't make up miss things. Cron jobs are executed when the clock hits it. So I don't care what happened in the past. I go along. It's like, oh, there's a job. I run it. And then there's a job. I run it. If there's something in the past, it doesn't keep track like, oh, I should have run. I should have run. I should have run. It's, I don't care. I'm going ahead and, oh, something tripped my trigger to execute that command. So it doesn't keep track of things like that. And in reality, like a backup, you wouldn't want it to. Like, oh yeah, I missed a week, so let me do a week's worth of backups today. So right now, Monday, and then Tuesday, and then Wednesday, and then Thursday, and then Friday, and it'll all be the same data because it's actually copying as of today. So it doesn't do it, and in this situation, we really wouldn't want it to do it. Okay? Thank you. Yes? Any means any. Yes, it means any. So sudo cron tab -e for editing. So like in this example, if I change that 10 to an asterisk, and I change this to a 0, anytime that the system times minute clicks on 0, regardless of the hour and regardless of the day and regardless of the month and whatever, it's going to be running. So in this case, it would run every hour right now. So I get a new backup every hour. And again, that's where your backup would want to have a different file name so you're not backing up over your file all the time. And that's why I was going to play with some, and also I realized I really shouldn't have introduced all those variables to you. You need, at this point, however, I'm not trying to trick you, being able to transfer knowledge from one thing to another. Okay, so right now it's going to run that every hour. I'm just going to change this. We'll take a look at this later on. Don't follow along. For the rest of you, continue your naps. Ooh, day, let's see, append time. No, don't change anything. Don't change any of this. Date plus percent hour. Okay. Okay. I just have to think of this for a second here. Is that right? Hour, date, H. Date H. Okay. Oh, I don't want the percent hour. Something's wrong. Oh, not percent. No wonder. Typo. There we go. It's supposed to be blue. Good. I'll leave it there. We'll take a look at it later. This should run at 11 o'clock, so a new backup should automatically be created at 11. We'll check it out later. Okay, moving on to somewhat script related, because we enjoy this so much, is underneath the other useful applications. Other useful applications, there are many useful applications developed by the Ubuntu server team, and others are well integrated with the Ubuntu Server Edition that might not be well known. This chapter will showcase a couple of them, and we're just going to be looking at one of them. The very first one is Pam Motd, which is message of the day. MOTD is message of the day. This is chapter 23. Chapter 23, the very first section. There's a couple configuration things that we have to do. We have to change the rights values of a couple of different directories and files, and that kind of stuff, but we're following it straight out of the book. So if you have the textbook, you don't have to, or the PDF file, you don't have to take many notes on this. When logging to the Ubuntu server, you may have noticed informative message of the day. This information is obtained and displays using a couple packages. There's a landscape common and also the update notifier common. And that's the thing that tells you if there's updates available and that kind of stuff. So let me log out. And if I log in, all this stuff here is the message of the day. Welcome to Ubuntu 12.04 LTS, which is long-term log out. Log out. I'm sorry. I kind of skipped past that, I guess. How to log out? You type in log out. I apologize. I never would have guessed. You log in, you log out. And that is something that you should do. You shouldn't be walking away from your server with you logged in, ever. So even if you're gone just for a second, you log out. You come back, you log back on. So, yeah. Oh, I don't need to log in. So yes, it's log out, and I want to type in Paul B and then password. But again, this whole thing up here is your last login was at this time, and welcome to Ubuntu, and then documentation is found here, and here's your information about your system. And then I have one zombie process. Does anybody else have a zombie process? Okay. Yeah, don't worry about that. It doesn't take up any resources. It's just something is waiting to die, but zombies never die. And so it's... and then we talked about this other one, the update notifier. That's this right here. There's 118 packages updated, whatever. You can modify this or add to it. We're going to be adding to this. And just for this example, we're going to be adding the weather. Why not? Okay? So as we look in our server guide, it says PAM, message of the day, executes the scripts in this directory, the etc update.motd directory, in the order based on the number prepended to the script. Prepended means in the front of it. So if I have a script called backup.sh, if that's a shell script, and if I put a 29 on in the front of that, that's going to execute before 35. It's going to execute after a script called 10. So, I mean, just think of it that way, that it's going to be just a numerical order. So the order that they're in that directory. So if I do an ls in that directory, at the update-motd-.d, these are the ones that are in there already. So there's a 50, a 91, a 98, 99, 98, 90, 10, and again, it's going to do this order. So the header, help desk, is then 50, then 90, 91, 98, 98. There's two 98s. And then 99. But it doesn't in that order. We're going to add one in here. And so you could just be a text file. So it's just going to be including text. But we want to be running this actual application. And it's the weather utility. So I want to install that. So I do a sudo apt-get. And I want to install it. Weather-util. Sudo apt-get install weather-util. So it does a lot of your scripts for you. That's it. It's a pretty small one. This will be on the test. Okay, rephrase. It's not on the test. It will be one of your skills that you have to demonstrate. It's not a test. It's not even a quiz. It's just a skill. Okay. And again, just following through the user's guide, the server guide, let's see here. We want to create, the next step is to create this file in that directory, the user local directory in the bin, and then local weather is the file we're going to be creating. So go ahead and do that. So I'm going to do sudo vim. And by typing this in, as we noticed, a couple of people found this out, if you do vim and then / a file name, it's going to create it off the root, not in the current directory. So this is where we want to start over the path. From the root, we're going to go to user, and then local, and then bin, and then local weather. I'll pause there. Okay, first thing I should probably let you know, I should have told this before. We're going to be editing this text file in this directory. Remember, that's not where it's looking for these scripts, though. It's looking for it in that message of the day.d directory. We're going to create it here. We're going to modify it here if we ever want to change it, and we can do everything we want in this directory. What we're going to end up doing next, after these steps, is we'll be creating a link to that directory. It's like a shortcut. So the file was specifically, specifically exists in this local bin directory, but we're creating a shortcut, numbering it, and putting it in that message of the day directory. So it's going to run it, execute it, just all is going to be there. But that's kind of a protected directory, so we don't want to be editing stuff directly in there. We just want links to go in there pointing to other files. So that's letting you know where we're going. So I want to work with this file. So go ahead and edit it. And there's just a couple lines of code that we need in here. We always hit A for append. Letting you know it's a shell script. And it's going to be print the local weather information for the message of the day, or MOTD. Another comment line, replace KINT with your local weather station. And it tells you local stations can be found here. http://www.weather.gov/tg/siteloc.shtml. Again, we have echo for a blank line. And I can do echo again. And if I put something in quotes, I can put anything I want. Now, for the current weather report. And then we run the program called weather-I. And then we need our local weather station. Anybody know our local weather station for Manitowoc or Sheboygan? You do have the Sheboygan Coast Guard. What is it? How'd you know that? Oh. Is it K21C? Yeah. What you can do is go to that website, in fact, and .shtml. If we go to the meteorological products, which is that website that you just typed in, if you go there, it says either you can enter your 5-digit WMO index number. Anybody know your 5-digit WMO index number? It's probably important. You probably should keep track of that somewhere. Or your if you don't know that, at least you know your 4-character ICAO location indicator. Anybody go with those? No? Okay. Well, let's look for all the stations then in, not in Alabama, in Wisconsin. If I look under Sheboygan, Sheboygan has 2 of them. They have the airport, KSBM, and also the Coast Guard, which is K21C. I'm going to use the KSBM one for the airport one. You can use either one that you want. If you're more inclined towards Manitowoc, we scroll up to there to the Manitowoc County Airport, which is KMTW. Cleveland, Wisconsin does not have its own place for recording weather information, unfortunately. I thought Mimi would or something, or Taos or anything. Whitelaw? No, they don't. Anyway, so it tells us where to look them up. We can look it up, and then we type in our code. So I'm going to change this to the airport, KSBM. You can use any of those that you want. In fact, since it's just a script and just a program, you can include multiples. KMTW. This include the weather for Sheboygan and include the weather for Manitowoc. Okay, go ahead and save this file. Escape:/WQ. We're on page 380 of the server guide. It's asking us to make the script executable. Just type in the command exactly out of the book. Change mods, sudo change mod 755/user/local/bin local-weather. So again, that's a full path to the file that you just created, user local bin local weather. No news is good news. If you type something wrong, it's not going to work. It's going to say cannot find the file or incorrect parameters or something. Okay, I'm just going to type this right out of the book. Type in here sudo ln. ln for symlink. I don't know what ln for link. Sometimes the abbreviations don't always match up. -s. What file am I pointing? What's the original file? Which is /usr/local/bin/local-weather. That's the local file, the actual file. And I'm going to create a symlink or a simulated link or a shortcut or whatever you want to call it in the etc directory, in the update motd.d directory. And the file I want to call it there is local 98-local-weather. And that puts it there. So if I do a directory then, ls, in that etc update motd.d directory, you're going to see this new one right here, 98 local weather, which is just pointing to that file that we just created. Check it out, see how it works out. I'm going to log out and log back in. And it gives me my weather report. Current conditions in Sheboygan County Memorial Airport is 28 degrees, 28.9 degrees. Manitowoc is 1 degree less at 28 degrees. A little less humid. Sheboygan is overcast opposed to Manitowoc's partly cloudy. Now we can go back and edit either of those files though. So let me go back and edit that, the local weather file, sudo vim, and it's in the user /local/bin local-weather file. Hit A for append, and I can put weather for any other place I want. So let's take a look here. PHNL. Let's choose that one, PHNL. And then we'll also try PAMR. Let's see what those do. Log out, log back in. Now, just in comparison, in Honolulu, it's 72 degrees. It's overcast, so you don't feel so bad about not being in Honolulu today. And Anchorage, Alaska, it's 1.9 degrees Fahrenheit. But it's clear. So by editing that one file, you can add and remove stations. You can add anything you want. And the link is what's actually being executed when you log in. If it didn't work, it's probably a typo somewhere. Probably not. I'll take a look at that with you, because it's just running a weather command for a station. The station doesn't exist. I'm not sure if it gives you an error or not. So again, this is all scripting type of stuff. And it can be done manually. You write the script and you just execute it. Bash, whatever. You can execute it automatically with a time using cron. I want to back up every day. I want to back up every hour. In fact, it's after 11 o'clock, so I should see if I have a new backup file in my backup directory. ls/backup. And I do. I have an 11 o'clock backup. So at 11 o'clock, I should type that in, ls-l, the backup directory. And right at 11 o'clock is when it executed that one and created 11 o'clock one. At noon, it's going to create one, Ubuntu Paul B Monday 12, and then at 1 o'clock, it's going to be Ubuntu Paul B Monday 13. So I'd keep an hourly backup always on my system. So I could go back to anyone that I want. Now, if I just kept it this way, it would just, I would have an hourly backup every day of every week. On next Monday, it would just overwrite these files. So the Monday 10 o'clock archive file would just get overwritten by the new Monday 10 o'clock and the new Monday 11 o'clock and so on. That'd be a lot of backup files, 24 of them a day times 7, almost 200 of them. You do have to do the, not again, no. You didn't do it at all? Did it work for you? Oh, try the change mod thing. Because it needs to be executable. Right now, by default, when you create a text file, it's not executable. And if you remember, it's 755, we have read, write, execute. Remember that binary 4, 2, 1? I'm sorry. Yeah, 4, 2, 1. So if we want executable, we have to make that 1 bit to be a 1. By default, it's not on. So that's why it won't run. So just some scripting things. Hope you learned some things. We didn't get into scripting as far as the details of the scripting files, but at least get you exposed to them. Did you do scripting in Linux 1? A little bit. A little bit? Okay. Okay, that's all that I have for you today. The rest of the day is figuring this out and making sure it works for you, and then to ask questions, work on some Dropbox things. Next week, right now I'm planning on just showing you some of the new features in 2012-10 server and desktop. And the rest of the day we'll just be working with Dropboxes, and then the final week is finishing it up. I'm making sure that everybody has enough time to finish all those up, and so there's no questions. I'm not trying to trick you. And of course, being really good, if I was doing this really well, I would append this. And I would put a comment. Honolulu, Anchorage. And you can have these all in the script, and then just which ones you want to see or which ones you don't want to see. Gosh, I'm not really interested in Anchorage right now. Just comment them out.